Hello, you all. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. And welcome to another segment of Divine Femininity United. I'm your girl, Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee, and we are here for our, oh, dare I say it, our finale of this amazing book, The Shack, written by William P. Young. Listen, you all. This book has blown my mind. It has taken us on an emotional roller coaster that has been the most phenomenal, the most amazing. It's been beautiful. Oh my goodness. And again, based on true events, you all, based on true events. This is the story as told to William Young by Mackenzie um, Allen Philips, who is the main character in the actual book. This is his life and what took place with him and his family, and the very sad abduction and murder of his daughter. My goodness, this has been a beautiful, sad, actualizing, evolving, transformative, loving, forgiving. Geez, it's been so many different things all wrapped up in one book. Absolutely amazing. Now, the crazy part is, you all, we were left on the last chapter session that we had this past Tuesday. We were left on a cliffhanger. Why? Because Mackenzie, after experiencing all of the beautiful things that he experienced, was headed back home and was hit by a truck. That was the end of the last chapter. I said no. But of course, everything being in synchronicity, everything having something to do with something else, as we know that the language of the universe is relationship. And so if that's the case, then everything has a relationship with something else. Everything is interconnected with something else. And so after having that transformative astral projection, if you will, um, him being hit by the truck, I could only believe that there's a reason behind that. And we will see what that reason is. Thank you for being here. We are airing live on multiple platforms: Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and all of the other places. Okay. So if you're here, I want to thank you for your presence. Thank you for just lending us your energy, sharing spaces with us. We do appreciate it. If you have anything that you want to share, in terms of what you're getting and the wow factors and things like that, as we're reading, please use the comment section of the chat. That's what it's there for. But outside of that, if you just want to tune in and just listen, feel free to do so. The chapters that we're reading today, the final chapter is chapter 18, which is called Outbound Ripples. And if you remember in one of the previous chapters, Mack and Jesus were skipping rocks, pebbles on the water, and Jesus spoke about outbound ripples, how one thing, which is the skipping of the pebbles, can result in the ripples expanding out and affecting so many other things. So again, the language of the universe is relationship. One thing is not just one thing isolated unto itself. One thing affects other things, so many other things. That one ripple from pebble skipping on one side of the world can result in a typhoon on the other side. You understand what I'm saying? So it's hugely interconnected, and they spoke heavily about relationship inside of this book. And when I tell you, it is an eye opener, to the point where my sister and I were having a conversation earlier today about how um I'm very cognizant of this anyway, but I really want to be more aware of being present. And even when others are talking, just not being distracted, because we have normalized listening to quote unquote listening to people while also scrolling through our phones, while also being busy doing something else, while also no, I really want to be intentional about relationship. I really do. And then I want others to be intentional about relationship with me. You know what I'm saying? So I want to really dive deeper into the the topic of relationship and what it truly means. Relationship, connectivity, togetherness, oneness. That is real. And I'm not talking about just romantic. Oh God, that is a byproduct of what relationship is. I'm talking about relationship as a whole, relationship to self, relationship to nature, relationship to others, family, friends, relationship to, animal, to whatever the case, and relationship to children, relationship to parents, relationship to, whatever your passion, relationship to, your inner selves, your inner beings, all of that relationship. This book is heavy on relationship, man. And I'm telling you, being intentional about it, being deliberate about relationship. The root word of relationship is relate. How are we relating? Are we relating as we should be relating? Or are we missing out on knowing someone, knowing something, being present with them? You know what I'm saying? It's this book, man, when I tell you this book opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Don't get me wrong, it's not a condemnation trip. No, 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 no. It's not to say what we're not doing, because I try to be very aware of being present. I really, really do. But there is definitely always room for us to evolve even further, and I'm so grateful for this book. There was a reason why, because if you all remember, we were reading through another book written by Bessel van der Kolk, and it is called uh, The Body Keeps the Score. We were reading that. We were on chapter 4. We were about to read chapter 4 when I heard so clear as me talking to stop that book and start reading The Shack. Never has that happened. Never. And we've been reading collectively, you all, for years. Never has that happened. And I'm so glad. I also understand 100% why we were to abruptly stop and read this book. I'm so grateful. That's what I mean about being connected, about being in relationship with self, being in relationship to spirit, being in relationship, because had I not been, I would have missed that instruction. I would have missed that guidance. You know what I mean? And we wouldn't be enjoying this journey, man. This is amazing. Now, there was a movie depicted of this book, and I am going to treat myself and watch the movie after this is over. So today is about The Shack, okay? And without further ado, you all, we're going to go into chapter 18, the final chapter of the book The Shack, written by William P. Young. There's a quote by Oswald Chambers, and it says, "Faith never knows where it is being led, but it knows and loves the one who is leading." That is so true. Faith never knows where it is being led, but it knows and loves the one who is leading. That's it. That's trust. That's loving. That's knowing the one you love. And then that's allowing, simply allowing, knowing that all is well, even if you don't know what all is. You know that it's well because you know the one that is leading. You love the one that is leading. You trust the one that is leading. And you allow the one that is leading. That's beautiful. And finally, as if from far away, he heard a familiar voice squeal in delight. "He squeezed my finger. I felt it. I promise." He couldn't even open his eyes to see, but he knew Josh was holding his hand. He tried to squeeze again, but the darkness overwhelmed him and he faded out. It took a full day for Mack to gain consciousness again. He could barely move another muscle in his body. Even the effort to lift a single eyelid seemed overwhelming, although doing so was rewarding with screams and shouts and laughter. One after another, a parade of people rushed up to his one barely open eye. as if they were looking into a deep, dark hole containing some incredible treasure. Whatever they saw seemed to please them immensely, and off they would go to spread the news. Some faces he recognized, but the ones he didn't, Mac soon learned, were those of his doctors and nurses. He slept often, but it seemed that every time he opened his eyes, it would cause no little excitement. Just wait until I stick out my tongue, he thought. That will really get him. Everything seemed to hurt. He was now painfully aware when a nurse moved his body against his will for physical therapy and to keep him from developing bed sores. It was apparently routine treatment for people who had been unconscious for more than a day or two, but knowing that didn't make it any more bearable. At first, Mac had no idea where he was and how he had ended up in such a predicament. He barely could keep track of who he was. The drugs didn't help, although he was grateful for the morphine taking the edge off his pain. Over the course of the next couple of days, his mind slowly cleared up and he began to get his voice back. A steady parade of family and friends came to wish a speedy recovery or perhaps glean a little information, which wasn't forthcoming. Josh and Kate were regulars, sometimes doing homework while Max snoozed, or answering his questions that for the first couple days he asked again and again and again. At some point, Mac finally understood, even though he had been told many times that he had been unconscious for almost 4 days after a terrible accident in Joseph. Nan made it clear that he had a lot of explaining to do, but was for the first time being focused more on his recovery than her need for answers. Not that it mattered. His memory was in a fog, and though he could remember bits and pieces, he couldn't pull them together to make any sense. He vaguely remembered the drive to the shack, but things got sketchy beyond that. In his dreams, the images of Papa, Missy, Jesus playing by the lake, Sophia in the cave, and the light and color of the festival in the meadow came back to him like shards from a broken mirror. Each was accompanied by waves of delight and joy, but he wasn't sure if they were real or hallucination conjured up by collisions between some damaged or otherwise wayward neurons and the drugs coursing through his veins. On the third afternoon after he had regained consciousness, he awoke to find Willie staring down at him, looking rather grumpy. "You idiot," Willie gruffed. "Nice to see you too, Willie," Mac yawned. "Where'd you learn to drive anyway?" Willie ranted. "Oh yeah, I remember. Farm boy, not used to intersections." "Mac, from what I heard, you should have been able to smell that other guy's breath a mile away." Mac lay there, watching his friend ramble on, trying to listen and comprehend every word, which he couldn't. "And now," Willie continued, "Nan's mad as a hornet and won't talk to me. She blames me for loaning you my Jeep and letting you go to the shack." "So why did I go to the shack?" Mac asked, struggling to collect his thoughts. "Everything is fuzzy." Willie groaned in desperation. "You have to tell her I tried to talk you out of it." "You did?" "Don't do this to me, Mac. I tried to tell you." Mac smiled as he listened to Willie rant. If he had few other memories, he did remember this man cared about him. Just having him near made him smile. Mac was suddenly startled to realize that Willie had leaned down very close to his face. Seriously, was he there? He whispered, then quickly looked around to make sure no one was in earshot. "Who?" whispered Mac. "And why are we whispering?" "You know, God," Willie insisted. "Was he at the shack?" Mac was amused. "Willie," he whispered, "it's not a secret. God is everywhere. So I was at the shack." "I know that, you pea brain," he stormed. "Don't you remember anything? You mean you don't even remember the note? You know, the one you got from Papa that was in your mailbox that you slipped on the ice and banged yourself up." That's when the penny dropped and the disjointed story began to crystallize in Mac's mind. Everything suddenly made sense as his mind began connecting the dots and filling in the details. The note, the Jeep, the gun, the trip to the shack, and every facet of that glorious weekend. The images and memories began to flood back so powerfully that he felt like they might pick him up and sweep him off his bed and out to the world. And as he remembered, he began to cry until tears were rolling down his cheeks. Mack, I'm sorry. Willie was now begging and apologetic. What did I say? Mack reached up and touched his friend's face. Nothing, Willie. I remember everything now. The note, the shack, Missy, Papa. I remember everything. Willie didn't move, not sure what to say or think. He was afraid that he had pushed his friend over the edge. The way he was rambling on about the shack and Papa and Missy. Finally, he asked, so are you telling me that he was there? God, I mean? And now Mack was laughing and crying. Willie, he was there. Oh, was he there? Wait till I tell you. You'll never believe it. Man, I'm not sure I do either. Mack stopped, lost in his memories for a moment. Oh, yeah, he said it. He said at last. He told me to tell you something. What, me? Mack watched as concern and doubt traded places on Willie's face. So what did he say? Again, he leaned forward. Mack paused, grasping for words. He said, tell Willie that I'm especially fond of him. Mack stopped and watched his friend's face and jaw tighten and puddles of tears fill his eyes. His lips and chin quivered, and Mack knew his friend was fighting hard for control. I gotta go, he whispered hoarsely. You'll have to tell me all about it later. And with that, Willie simply turned and left the room, leaving Mack to wonder and remember. When Nan next came in the end, she found Mack propped up in the bed and grinning from ear to ear. He didn't know where to begin, so he let her talk first. She filled him in on some of the details he was still confused about, delighted that he was finally able to retain the information. He had been almost killed by a drunk driver and had undergone emergency surgery for various broken bones and internal injuries. There had been a great deal of concern that he might lapse into a long-term coma, but his wakening had alleviated all of the worry. As she talked, Mack thought it indeed strange that he would get in an accident right after spending a weekend with God. The seeming random chaos of life, wasn't that how Papa put it? Then he heard Nan say the accident had happened on Friday night. Don't you mean Sunday? He asked. Sunday? Don't you think I'd know what night it was? It was Friday night when they flew you in here. Her words confused him, and for a moment he wondered if the events at the shack had been a dream after all. Perhaps it was one of those Sarayu time warp displacement thingies, he assured himself. When Nan finished recounting her side of the events, Mack began telling her all that had happened to him. But first, he had asked her forgiveness, confessing how and why he lied to her. This surprised Nan, and she credited his new transparency to the trauma and morphine. The full story of his weekend, or day, as Nan kept reminding him, unfolded slowly, spread over a number of different tellings. Sometimes the drugs would get the better of him, and he would slip off to dreamless sleep, occasionally mid-sentence. Initially, Nan focused on being patient and attentive, trying as best she could to suspend judgment, but not seriously considering that his ravings were anything but remnants of neurologic damage. But the vividness and depth of his memories touched her and slowly undermined her resolve to stay objective. There was life in what he was telling her, and she quickly understood that whatever had happened had greatly impacted and changed her husband. Her skepticism eroded to the point where she agreed to find a way for her and Mack to have some time alone with Kate. Mack would not tell her why, and that made her nervous, but she was willing to trust him in the matter. Josh was sent on an errand, leaving just the three of them. Mack reached out his hand, and Kate took it. Kate, he began, his voice still a little weak and raspy. I want you to know that I love you with all of my heart. I love you too, Daddy. Seeing him like this had evidently softened her a little. He smiled and then grew serious again, still holding onto her hand. I want to talk to you about Missy. Kate jerked back as if stung by a yellow jacket, her face turning dark. Instinctively, she tried to pull her hand away, but Mack held tight, which took a considerable portion of his strength. She glanced around, Nan came up and put her arm around her. Kate was trembling. Why? She demanded in a whisper. Katie, it wasn't your fault. Now she hesitated, almost as if she had been caught with a secret. What's not my fault? Again, it took effort to keep the words out, but she clearly heard. That we lost Missy. Tears rolled down his cheek as he struggled with those simple words. Again, she recoiled, turning away from him. Honey, no one blames you for what happened. Her silence lasted only a few seconds longer before the dam burst. But if I hadn't been careless in the canoe, you wouldn't have had to. Her voice filled with self-loathing. Mack interrupted with a hand on her arm. That's what I'm trying to tell you, honey. It's not your fault. Kate sobbed as her father's words penetrated her war-ravaging heart. But I've always thought it was my fault. And I thought that you and Mom blamed me, and I didn't mean. None of us meant for this to happen, Kate. It just happened. And we'll learn to live through it. But we'll learn together, okay? Kate had no idea how to respond. Overwhelmed and sobbing, she broke free from her father's hands and rushed out of the room. Nan, with tears trailing down her cheeks, gave Mack a helpless but encouraged look and quickly left in pursuit of her daughter. The next time Mack awoke, Kate was lying aside him, asleep next to him on the bed, snuggled up and safe. Evidently, Nan had been able to help Kate work through some of her pain. When Nan noticed that his eyes were open, she quietly approached so as not to awake their daughter and kissed him. I believe you, she whispered, and he nodded and smiled, surprised by how important that was to hear. It was probably the drugs that were making him so emotional, he thought. Mack improved rapidly over the next few weeks. Barely a month after he was discharged from the hospital, he and Nan called Joseph's newly appointed deputy sheriff, Tommy Dalton, to talk to him about the possibility of a hike back into the area beyond the shack. Since everything at the shack had reverted back to its original desolation, Mack had begun to wonder if Missy's body might still be in the cave. It would be tricky explaining to law enforcement how he knew where his daughter's body was hidden. But Mack was confident that one friend would give him the benefit of the doubt regardless of what happened. Tommy was indeed gracious, even after hearing the story of Mack's weekend, which he chalked up to the dreams and nightmares of the still grieving father. He agreed to go back up to the shack. He wanted to see Mack anyway. Personal items had been salvaged from the wreckage of Willie's Jeep, and returning them was as good as an excuse as any to spend time together. So, on a clear, crispy Saturday morning in early November, Willie drove Mack and Nan to Joseph in his new used SUV, where they met Tommy, and together the four headed into the reserve. Tommy was surprised to watch Mack walk past the shack and up to a tree near a trailhead, just as he had explained to them on the drive up. Mack found and pointed to a red arc at the base of the tree. Still walking with a slight limp, he led them on a 2-hour hike into the wilderness. Nan said not a word, but her face clearly revealed the intensity of emotions that she battled with each step. Along the way, they continued to find the same red arc etched into trees and onto rock faces. By the time they arrived at a wide expanse of boulders, Tommy was becoming convinced, perhaps not in the veracity of Mack's wild story, but that they were surely following a carefully marked trail, one that could possibly have been led by Missy's killer. Without hesitation, Mack turned directly into the maze of rocks and mountain walls. They probably would have never found the exact spot if it hadn't been for Papa. Sitting at the top of the pile of stones in the front of the cave was the rock with the red marking turned outward. To realize that Papa had done made Mack almost laugh out loud. But they did find it. And when Tommy was fully convinced at what they were opening up, he made them stop. Mack understood why it was important, and, though a little grudgingly, agreed that they should reseal the cave to protect it. They would return to Joseph, where Tommy would notify forensics specialists and the proper law enforcement agencies. On the trip down, Tommy again listened to Mack's story, this time with a new openness. He also took the opportunity to coach his friend on the best ways to handle the grilling he would be soon getting. Even though Mack's alibi was flawless, there would still be serious questions. The following day, experts descended like buzzards, recovering Missy's remains and bagging the sheet along with whatever else they could find. It took only weeks after that to glean enough evidence to track down and arrest the little lady killer. Learning from the clues the man had left himself to find Missy's cave, authorities were able to locate and recover the bodies of the other little girls he had murdered. Wow. Wow. That's the end of chapter 18. My goodness. That is so see. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Next section, afterwards. Well, there you have it. At least as it was told to me. I'm sure there will be some who wonder whether everything really happened as Mack recalls it, or if the accident and morphine made him just a little bit loopy. As for Mack, he continues to live his normal productive life and remains adamant that every word of the story is true. All the changes in his life, he tells me, are enough evidence for him. The great sadness is gone, and he experiences most days with a profound sense of joy. So, the question I'm faced with as I pen these words is how to end a tale like this. Perhaps I can do that best by telling you a little about how it has affected me. As I stated in the foreword, Mack's story changed me. I don't think that there is one aspect of my life, especially my relationships, that hasn't been touched deeply and altered in ways that truly matter. Do I think it's true? I want all of it to be true. Perhaps if some of it is not actually true in one sense, it is still true nonetheless, if you know what I mean. I guess you and sorry you will have to figure that one out. And Mack, well, he's a human being that continues through a process of change, like the rest of us. Only he welcomes it while I tend to resist it. I have noticed that he loves larger than most, is quick to forgive, and even quicker to ask for forgiveness. The transformations in him have caused quite a ripple through his community of relationships, and not all of them easy. But I have to tell you that I've never been around another adult who lives life with such simplicity and joy. Somehow he has become a child again, or maybe more accurately, he's become the child he never was allowed to be, abiding in simple trust and wonder. He embraces even the dark shades of life as part of some incredibly rich and profound tapestry, crafted masterfully by invisible hands of love. As I write this, Mack is testifying at the Lady Killer trial. He had hoped to visit with the accused, but has not yet been granted permission. But he's determined to see him, even if it happens long after the verdict is rendered. If you ever get a chance to hang out with Mack, you will soon learn that he's hoping for a new revelation, one of love and kindness, a revolution that revolves around Jesus and what he did for us all, and what he continues to do in anyone who has a hunger for reconciliation and a place to call home. This is not a revolution that will overthrow anything, or if it does, it will do so in ways we could never contrive in advance. Instead, it will be the quiet daily powers of dying and serving and loving and laughing, of simple tenderness and unseen kindness. Because if anything matters, then everything matters. And one day, when all is revealed, every one of us will bow our knee and confess in the power of Sariu that Jesus is the Lord of all creation, to the glory of Papa. Oh, one last note. I'm convinced that Mack and Nan still go up there sometimes to the shack, just to be alone. It wouldn't surprise me if he walks out to that old dock, takes off his shoes and socks, and, puts his feet on the water just to see if, well, signed Willie. There's a quote here by Elizabeth Barrett Browning that states, Earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God. But only he who sees takes off his shoes. The rest sit around and pluck blackberries. My goodness. Okay, now there are acknowledgments here, and the acknowledgments say, I brought a stone to 3 friends. It was a chunk of boulder that I had carved out of the caves of my experience. These three, Wayne Jacobson, Brad Cummings, and Bobby Downs, with great and careful kindness, helped me chip away at that rock until we were able to see a wonder below its face. Wayne was the first to see this story and went out of his way to encourage me to have it published. His enthusiasm brought in the others to refine the story and to prepare it to share with a wider audience, both in print and we hope in film. He and Brad bore the lion's share of the work in the three major rewrites that brought this story to its final form, adding their insights into the ways in which God works and keeping the story true to Mack's pain and his healing. These two brought energy, creativity, and skill to the writing, and the quality of work that you now hold in your hands is due to large measure to their gifts and sacrifice. Bobby brought his unique background in filmmaking to help us collaborate on the story to tighten its flow and heighten its drama. You can visit Wayne at www.lifestream.org, Brad at www.thegodjourney.com, and Bobby at www.christiancinema.com. I am especially fond of each of you three. KMW. Many have intersected this project and given time and heart to sand the surface or etch a design or voice an opinion, encouragement or objection, leaving a piece of their life inside this story and how it has unfolded. These include Marissa Giglieri and Dave Aldrich as design collaborators, and Kate Lappin and especially Julie Williams, who assisted with production. A number of friends took time from their schedules to produce and to prod and poke and help me edit, especially in the early rewrites. These include Australia Sue, brilliant Jim Hawley in Taiwan, and especially my cousin Dale Berneski in Canada. There is a host whose insight, perspective, companionship, and encouragement have mattered. Thanks to Larry Gillis in Hawaii, my buddy Dan Polk in DC, Mary Kay and Rick Larson, Michael and Renee Harris, Julie and Tom Rushton, and the Gunderston household in Boring, Oregon. That's a noun, not an adjective. Along with the folk of DCS. My great friend Dave Sargent in Portland, the individuals and families of the Northeast Portland community, and the Klausner, Foster, Weston, Dunbar kinfolk in Estacada. I am full of gratitude for the Warren clan, numbering around 100 now, who helped Kim rescue me from the dark side, and my parents and the Canadian family, the Youngs, Sparrows, Bruneskis, and others. I love you, Unruby. I know you've had a hard time of it lately. Also, I have no words to express my heart and the love for Kim, my children, and our two incredible daughters-in-law, Courtney and Michelle, who are both bearing our first grandkids. Yippee. Creative stimulation includes a number of old dead guys like Jacques Ellul, George MacDonald, Tozer, Lewis, Gibran, the Inklings, and Soren Kierkegaard. But I am also grateful to the writers and speakers like Ravi Zacharias, Malcolm Smith, Anne Lamott, Wayne Jacobson, Marilyn Robinson, Donald Miller, and Maya Angelou, to name a few. Musical inspiration is eclectic, a smattering of U2, Dylan, Moby, Paul Coleman, Mark Knopfler, James Taylor, Bebu Norman, Matt Wertz, You're Something Special, Nicole Norderman, Amos Lee, Kirk Franklin, David Wilcox, Cyril McLaughlin, Jackson Brown, Indigo Girls, the Dixie Chicks, Larry Norman, and a whole lot of Bruce Cockburn. Thank you, Anna Rice, for loving this story and penetrating it with your musical gift. You gave us, an incredible gift. Most of us have our own grief, broken dreams, and damaged hearts, each of us with our unique losses, our own shack. I pray that you find the same grace there that I did, and that the abiding presence of Papa, Jesus, and sorry you, will with fill up your inside emptiness and joy unspeakable and full of glory. The Missy Project. This book came number one on the New York Times bestseller list on a $200 marketing budget and passionate readers who wanted to pass it along to their friends. If you'd like to share this book with others, here are some ideas we affectionately call the Missy Project. If you are as taken with this message of this book as we are, you may already have some unique ideas as to how you can best let others know about it. Here are some ideas to help you share this book with others. Give the book to friends, even strangers, as a gift. They not only get a compelling page turning thrill ride, but also a magnificent glimpse into the nature of God that is not often presented in our culture. If you have a website or a blog, consider sharing a bit about the book and how it touched your life. Don't give away the plot, but remember that they read it as well, and link to www.theshackbook.com. Write a book review for your local paper, favorite magazine, or website you frequent. Ask your favorite radio show or podcast to have the author on as a guest. Media people can often give more consideration to the requests of their listeners than the press releases of publicists. If you own a shop or business, consider putting a display of these books on your counter to resell to customers. We have books available at a discounted rate for resale. For individuals, we offer volume discount pricing for others of 6 books or more. Buy a set of books as gifts to battered women's shelter, prisons, rehabilitation homes, and the like, where people might be really encouraged by the story and its message. Talk about the book on email lists you're on, forums you frequent, and other places you engage other people on the internet. Don't make it an advertisement, but share how this book impacted your life and offer people the link to the Shack website. The more up-to-date information and ideas on how you can help, please check out the Missy Project at the website, theshackbook.com. All right, and that is it, you all. Oh my goodness. You know what I thought? I did have my own like almost like prediction about what that whole truck accident and all of that stuff was going to be. I thought the truck accident, I really thought my hypothesis was this. I thought the truck accident was going to be the ladybug killer racing off to, with another abducted child. I'm so glad that it wasn't, right? But I thought that that's what that was. And I thought that there was going to be the interaction that they would have had. Him coming face to face with the killer of his daughter, and even possibly stopping the killer of his daughter from killing another child. And I thought that was going to be the thing that brought him to justice and things like that. I really had this played out in my head. And of course, that would make for a great plot twist. But I'm also happy to know the story that the results that actually happened. That's good. But now here's the thing. If you recall, Papa gave Mack something to give to Kate. And I wonder, did he give it to Kate? Yeah. Papa told, I think it was either Papa or Jesus told Mack to tell Willie something. And then Papa asked Mack, did he want to take his note with him? He said, no, I think I'm done with the note. But then Papa also gave Mack something to give to Kate specifically. And I'm wondering, he didn't mention that he gave it to her. I'm wondering, did he give it to her, especially with the truck and the accident and stuff like that? I'm wondering, did they find it? What happened? So those are some open-ended questions and things like that. But I will say this was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful read. Okay. Listen, you all, that's it for now. That was a quick segment, but it's okay. That was the end of our book. Again, this book is The Shack, you all, The Shack. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to watch it. Okay. I'm going to go and watch it so that, because, there is a movie depiction of it. Now, if you want the book, you still want it for your own personal reading, feel free to email me. Okay. For the ebook reading material, email me at info@biancamissbylee.com. Okay. That is info@biancamissbylee.com. You can also visit my website. Go to my website. You'll see everything that I do. You'll see what we're reading. You'll see astrological transits that I do. I keep you abreast on what's going on cosmically. You'll see some of my services and things that you can partake in. All of the good stuff. Okay. Also follow me on social media. You all, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of the things. You'll find me at Dr. Miss B. Lee. Okay. Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee. All right. All righty, you all. That's it for now. Next week we are off. I always place 1 week of break in between books, and then we will be announcing. Follow me so you can be abreast on the next book that we will be reading collectively. Not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. In 2 weeks from now, we will be starting a new book, or depending on what I hear, we could be continuing going back to the book "The Body Keeps the Score." Okay. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? We shall see. Just keep your eyes and ears open to the page and see what we got in store for you. It's all gonna be amazing. It's always good. It's always transformative. It's always eye opening. It's always evolving and expanding. Okay. Alrighty, you all. Listen, that's it for today. This is a quick one. I'm gonna send you back to your Sunday so that you can enjoy your family, enjoy yourself, enjoy whatever you get to enjoy, and prepare for the next work week coming up. Okay. As you already know, I love you. I mean it. There is absolutely, positively nothing, and I mean nothing, that you can do about it. We will see you back here in 2 weeks, right here at Divine Femininity United. Peace.